Well, herbs are becoming more and more popular for home gardens, and the gentleman beside me couldn't be more happy about that. Joining us today is Mr. Tom Berge. Hi, Tom.
Hello, Steve.
And Tom is with Golden Trowel Herb Farm, is that right?
That's correct.
Out of Newalla, Oklahoma. And Tom, that's true that herbs are gaining in popularity, and I can see it here at your place. Give us an overview of what you got.
That's for sure. Well, we do primarily a lot of plant production. We sell herb plants to the home gardener, and we grow a little bit here to show them what it looks like, teach them how to use it, grow some straw flowers and so on. We basically just have a good time with the herbs. Wonderful, wonderful plants.
Now you're selling here at your place, but also sometimes at farmers markets, right?
We do go to farmers market occasionally. There's been more and more herb fests and herb shows and so on, and those have been good. But people are welcome to come out here for sure.
Right. And education is a key.
Education is the key.
You know, there's so many different ways to use it. Now, let's talk first of all about cultural requirements, because we hear often that herbs will tolerate poor soils. What do you think?
Well,
about that?
They'll tolerate poor soils. If you want them to flourish, you really need to spend a little time, like you would with any other garden plant. You want a loose soil, particularly with herbs. The soil needs to drain well. It's good to have a rich soil. It doesn't have to be real rich, but they need something to...
But a little better production, I guess.
Exactly.
You know, I think herbs are becoming more popular and easier to find too, but then some of us, once we get them in the garden, we're kind of afraid on what to do with them.
Don't know what to do with them.
Talk a little bit about a couple of these, how to harvest.
Well, the great thing about herbs, as opposed to like your vegetable garden, you don't have to wait for your herbs to put on fruit and so on. You can harvest them at any stage, even something as small as this marjoram. This summer savory is a good example. You want to go in, I can cut from this easily right now, and this is the part that you want to use, particularly if you're cooking.
So as long as it's big enough to start cutting on.
As long as there's something there to cut. I usually tell people never to cut back more than half the plant at one time. You don't want to create too much stress.
Right. And really pruning helps.
The more you cut in, the bushier it'll get, the more herb you're going to have.
Now what about over here if one's starting to flower?
Well, that's as a rule, when the herbs do flower, unless the flower is what you're after, they tend to lose a little bit of their quality and flavor. But if they're already doing this, like on this basil, just come down. You can cut this real light, like just the flowering tops off of it, or you could come down and cut this. Cut it real heavy, cut half that plant down.
And in some cases...
And go ahead and use this too. This is good.
Okay, in some cases you're wanting it to flower for the seed purpose. So
exactly.
You almost have to know the end result.
And it depends on what you're going to use, what the end result, what you want to use it for.
Now, Tom, I know you also have some comments on the time of day to harvest these too.
Very important. I'm glad you brought that up. In the morning is ideal. I say in Oklahoma, I try to get out here about 9 o'clock in the morning. You want to harvest your herbs before the heat of the day comes on. If there's any dew, you want to wait till the dew evaporates.
Especially for culinary purposes.
Particularly because that's when the essential oil content is the strongest, and that's when you're going to have your best flavor.
Okay. Now, there's been a few of them here when we got a little tour that have caught my attention. What is this right here?
Spicy glow basil. Very popular basil, the tiny leaf. This is a perfect example of the nice mound. This can be grown even if you never use that, which would be a shame. That is an excellent ornament plant in the garden.
And an annual.
And it's an annual,
Okay. Now, one right over here that's pretty interesting too, that's kind of unique, is what, bee balm?
That's a bee balm or monarda. That particular one, the common name is horse mint. And it's quite unusual. This is as opposed to producing the single flower, they're produced on up the stem, as you can see.
Almost in a whirl, and the flower part, first appearance is not the flower at all. It's a purple leaf, and the flower's kind of hid in between those. And looks like the bees are loving that one. Now, is it as aggressive as a mint?
It's not quite not anything like a mint.
Okay.
It will in time, if you let it will spread out and can take over an area. But that we're talking about several years before it gets
perennial.
Perennial, very good perennial.
This one behind us is also interesting. A perennial as well.
A perennial valerian. It's traditionally a medicinal herb, and we grow it for several purposes. This is another one in our cut flower tray that we like. We cut it just about at this time, and it dries real nice.
Well, and this one, I'm glad we caught it at this stage because
Yes.
this confuses a lot of people.
Right.
If it's multiple uses.
Two different names, two different uses. This is coriander, which is what we usually refer to as the spice coriander, but more and more people are buying cilantro, and the cilantro that's when you use the leaf, and normally you would keep this cut back and keep it from flowering, and the leaf has got a very unusual flavor. It's used in salsas and a lot of different types of dishes. You let it go ahead and flower. Of course, the flowers are delicious like this, but after the flowers go by, then they form the seed pods like we have here, and this is your coriander spice, which is so popular in baking and different things. So that's a good example of an herb and then a spice on the same plant.
Now you've got a couple of beds that are just full of different kinds of basil.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about that is you put some in early and some in later, and tell me the story about that.
Well, the good thing, I try to tell people to don't get in a big hurry, especially on some of the annuals. Basil's a very good example. You put it in a little bit early, hoping to get an early harvest, and you'll actually lose a lot. This bed over here, as pretty as it is, it was put in about 2 weeks earlier than the bed we have over in the other part.
The one put in later has actually caught up and surpassed the bed
three times as much, and that's just a 2-week difference. So
don't get in too big a hurry.
Don't get in a hurry. We got a long growing season.
Now the other one that I want you to comment on is tarragon, and I didn't realize there was a difference in it, and we have one at the garden that we always treat the people to as far as its fragrance.
Yes.
But you tell me that not always that's the case.
That's not it. That particular tarragon, they're all part of the Artemisia family. That's the true French tarragon, and if you want the tarragon that you're going to cook with, that's the one you're after.
It smells almost like licorice.
It smells like licorice, and if you take a bite of it, it's got a very distinct bite to it. A lot of times you will buy a plant called Russian tarragon, which is sold as a culinary herb, and it's a beautiful plant, but doesn't really have any.
But it looks just like it.
Looks the same. The Russian tarragon will flower. True French tarragon will never.
And the Russian won't have the
flavor.
Okay. Now Tom is so interested in herbs. It's I guess either caused you trouble or won acclamation, but you're now the president, right?
The president, which is an honor, really.
Okay. Of
the Oklahoma Herb Growers and Marketing Association. And they can, if you want information on that, they can, of course, contact me since I'm the president.
Well, you guys have a newsletter.
We put out a newsletter 4 times a year. We hold different programs and in different parts of the state throughout the year, and educate people on the use of herbs, and we also work with people that are in the herb business to
promote
promote the use,
industry,
which is a lot of our job, is educating people on these wonderful plants.
Right. So we've got the address up on the screen so they can write to you then, and also I understand you have a little brochure that people could request.
We do have a brochure that we have together that will tell people the different herb growers in their area, and we're actually, something I didn't talk to you about, we're putting together a directory. That's going to be a very informative directory of all the membership.
That's very helpful, I think, because people might, if they don't want to have the space or the time to grow it, they can go and find someone in their area that is. So Tom,
happy to share their information too.
Thank you very much for having us come out. It's
been a pleasure, it really has. Thank you.